Hello everyone, I'm so glad you're all able to come. I'm Diane Rogers. I've been in the real estate business for 10 plus years. I did take a hiatus for a while, but I'm back. We're happy to have a bunch of professionals here to help answer some questions and give us some advice. We've reached an age where we have to be thinking about some of these things, and we put it off and we put it off and we put it off. It's also something that our children can be thinking about, particularly if we get really older and they are worried what's going to happen to mom and dad. They have to know how to do things if you don't care or you can't. So having a lot of these things, we've got cookie and coffee, and if the tea bags arrive, we'll have tea, but they haven't arrived yet. So I'm going to talk to you about when you move. Not everybody's going to move, but when you move, there's a lot of things to consider, and there's a great deal of fear in moving. General fear, you've maybe lived in a place for 40 years. I would be nervous of moving. So you're not only are you moving to a different place, but you don't know how to go about it because you've never moved before. Or you moved a lot of times, but now you're moving to downsize, likely, and you could be downsizing to a condo, or downsizing to your family, or downsizing to a nursing home or a retirement facility. There's lots of options, but you still have to make the move. And in order to do that, you have to sell your property most of the time. And I know Mike will be talking about the equity in your house, which is a good thing. You've worked all your life, and now your house is maybe going to be your retirement treasure chest. It's going to have lots of money in it, hopefully. So the first thing you want to do is, I want to talk about the market. The market right now, everybody is scared. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people. And people I hear all the time, oh, the market's down, nothing's selling. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, that's not true. Houses are still selling for a couple of reasons. One is people have to move. For whatever reason, they have to move. So they have to sell their house. They could be going to a new job, or they could be ill and have to get out of their house, or just all kinds of reasons. So houses are selling and buyers are buying. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people that don't care about the interest rate. They've got enough financial backing behind them. They know they can go through this because they want a new home. They want to change homes. Or they've suddenly increased in size. They've got more kids and they just can't do with this tiny little house that they had, so they need a bigger one. So the market is still working. It's a history of the market to go up and down in big waves. And last year we were up in a big wave, and we were on a crest. We were on a crazy wave. It was just really, really crazy. However, now we're down here. We haven't gone down here, and we may never get down here again. It's never going to go back to the way it was. And the prices are not going to go back to the way they were, but they will maintain a more even level now. They've reduced considerably. We've had houses reduced by 100, 150,000, 50,000, 30,000. They've come down to a more reasonable price to pay in this day and age. So if you're planning on selling, please don't plan on getting for your house what you would have got a year ago, because it's not going to happen. It's just not there anymore. The process for selling your home is the most scary for seniors, because everything is legal. The contract itself is about 9 pages of legal gobbledygook. You need to know what it says, what it means, and what you're signing. Okay? So one of the very first things you have to do is pick a realtor. In order to do that, it's like picking your doctor. If you go to a doctor and you don't like him, you're not going back. So make sure you test your realtors. Interview them if you have to, but you must feel confident with them, and you must feel comfortable with them, because that person's going to be with you for the next month or two or more. And if they're buying something for you, they're going to be with you even longer. So make sure you're comfortable with them, you're happy with them, you trust them. That's the most important thing. And you know that they're going to work their best to get your place sold. Because it's a legal document, I'm going to give you a scenario as if it was me, okay? Because if it was me, I would be I'm still old school. I don't do everything on the computer and expect you to go in and sign it, your initials all electronically. I take you the contract and say, here's a pen, because I go over the contract with you. I go over the whole thing and make sure you understand what it is you're signing. This is not like buying a TV. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you need to know what it is you're signing. You also need to know what you're tied into, and you get to determine how long the contract's going to go for. I can tell you right now, if you decided to cancel, I'm not going to stop you. I would just cancel the contract. Legally, I could say, no, you have to stay until this contract's over. But who wants to work with somebody that doesn't want to work with you? So if you canceled, you canceled. And many people have different reasons for that. So once you've signed this contract, you're kind of on your way. In signing it, you've determined what price you want to ask and how many days you want to leave it on. And you also have thought about Plan B. Okay, do you have a plan for where you want to go from here? Maybe you're going to go live with your kids, or you're going to go to a nice resident home. So, I'm saying that word wrong, but you know what, yeah. yeah, retirement resident, yeah. You could be wanting to go many different places, or you may just be being forced to go. It may be your health that's forcing you to move out, or it may be that one of you, the husband or the wife, has passed on, and it's left you with somewhat of a burden, because all of a sudden you've got this big house that might need a new roof or something like that. So there's lots of reasons that you need to know where you're going to go, or what you're going to do, or how you're going to accomplish that. And you have to feel confident in that too. So your Plan B is knowing that where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. And Plan C, is there a date? Is there a date you have to accomplish all this? Because that makes a big difference in how you price your house. If you're accepting a job somewhere else, senior or no senior, we all take jobs. So if you're taking a job somewhere else, you may have a date that you have to be there by. So you know that you're going to have to hurry, because you've got to get all this stuff down. And while you prepare your home, after you've initiated the listing, you have to do a lot of things. You probably, all of us, I can't think of too many people that don't have to do some sort of downsizing. And this could be downsizing even big furniture. The place you're going to may not accommodate all your couches and chairs and big things. So you have to consider how to downsize. You can do it yourself. You can do it with the help of family. You can do it with professionals who come in and help you do it. You have to consider all of these things, and they can be done while your house is being listed. Then there's the small downsizing. The tons of clothes in your closet that you never wear but you hate getting rid of. Just tons of stuff. And there's real neat little tricks and methods that we can give you the information on how to do that. It's important information, but it makes you feel really good too if you downsize a room and all of a sudden you think, oh, I got more room than I thought I had, you know. You keep the place neat. When it's listed, you're expecting people to come and look at your house. So you want it to be neat and clean and minor repairs done. Now, if there were major repairs, hopefully you've done them before we've got the house listed, or you're in the process of doing them. People do not want to walk up the stairs that are covered in leaves and branches, or that have ripped screens, or anything like that. Get those things fixed. They're minor, but they make a huge difference. You've got to make your place look like they want to live there. Let's hope that wasn't one of the good pages.
I'll pick it up.
It's okay. It says I'm on, oh, it must be, because that's 4, so this must be 5. Okay, so then the odds are next. The offer is next. Someone finally brings you an offer. That doesn't mean you're going to like it, but you might. So you're with your realtor who you trust. You're with your realtor, you go over the pros and the cons, and you decide whether this is an offer that you can accept the way it is, or whether it's one that you want to challenge or rebuttal or send back to them with other options. Usually it's increasing the price that they've offered. You may not like it, but it might be something like they want to close on October the 15th, and this is October the 5th, and you say, there's no way I can close. I still have to find my place, or I still have to pack, or so you would send them an offer back saying, oh, we like this, this, and this, but not this date, and we need it changed too. So you need to do that, and you have to go through this with your realtor. That's why you have her, so that she can help you with all these things. If it goes back to them, and it may go back and forth 2 or 3 times, you may be negotiating 2 or 3 times back and forth, but you're not alone. You've got your realtor. And once it's decided and it's an accepted offer, the buyer then has a couple of weeks to do his due diligence. That means he has to make sure he can get insurance, make sure he can get financing. That's one of the real important ones. He has to often they have a home inspection. So there's a lot of things he has to do in that time. Once he's signed off on all that, it's a done deal. And your paperwork all goes to your lawyer or your notary for all the legal actions that have to happen. And that means they have to change the title from your house, owning it, to their name so that they can own it. And it will all happen on your closing date. And the other thing that's really good on that closing date, that lawyer or notary also handles all the money. So he gives out the commissions, and then he gives you your money he pays any bills if you haven't paid all your taxes, for instance. And then he gives you the money for your pocket, and you're all set for your new life, wherever it is, and you're done. And the new people take over your home. It sounds like a lot, but it's not as scary as it sounds if you've got somebody to go through it with you. So that's really all I have to say. Selling a house often involves buying. And your realtor, I can tell you from my own point of view, your realtor will be more than happy to help you find a place to buy too, if that's what you're looking for. Please don't ever hesitate to ask. Ask your realtor. If you're questioning anything, ask your realtor. People seem to think that their questions may be silly, but they're not. They all need to be answered. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to invite Mike up. He's going to speak to you next.
Welcome everybody, thanks for coming today. My name is Mike Parkinson. I'm a mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Centers. I've been a broker for 20 years. 20 years! Can you believe it? I know. That's why we have this experience. It's exciting. So I've seen a lot over the 20 years. I've many clients. Worked on many files. So, different times we're in now compared to where they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I guess my goal here is to try to talk to people a little bit about taking equity out of their homes. One of the ways we can do that is through what's called a reverse mortgage. Has anybody heard of a reverse mortgage before? No? Does everybody understand it?
Go ahead and tell us.
Are people, there's a lot of negative talk about it, so I'm kind of here to talk to you a little bit about what it's good for, maybe what it's not so good for. So there's 2 different companies basically in Canada that will do them, and one is through CHIP Home Equity Bank, and the other one is Equitable Reverse Mortgage. But I'm going to talk to you about the CHIP Home Equity Bank because they're the biggest ones in Canada, and they're an actual federal bank, so they're regulated through just like every other bank, like the big TD Scotia. So in 2009 they became a bank, okay? So they're federally regulated. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why people want this. And they're the fastest growing bank in Canada right now. Do you know why? Why do you think that is? What do you think people have in their homes?
Equity.
How much do you think they got now compared to 10 years ago?
A lot.
Right. The last few years have been crazy, as Diane was saying, with prices. They've come down some, but they're not going to go down to like where they were at the bottom before. They will be coming down some more, obviously, with what's going on with interest rates right now. Okay, so a lot of people are struggling right now. Like, we feel it. Like, man, you go buy groceries, you get gas. Like, we feel it with our family. There's people right now that all they have is equity in their homes, and they're living on their pensions, and it's not good enough. So again, this is not for everybody. It's just an option to look at. There's traditional mortgages. There's home equity lines of credits. Are they good for you? Is there a regular mortgage? Are they good for you? Maybe. This is just a conversation to have, okay? I've talked to many people about this and their families, and in the end, it wasn't the right solution. They went with a line of credit or something like that, and in the end, it was a great solution for many people because it helped them get through their life financially. They worked their whole lives to pay their house off. They're struggling financially, which they shouldn't, but they are. And now this will help them. So we're kind of going to just go through this. I'm going to give you the basics. If you or anybody you know wants to find out some more about it, then I'm happy to chat anytime. Okay? All right. So who is this best suited for? You have to be 55 years minimum. Okay? You can still have a mortgage on your house. If there's enough equity we can take out of your house, we just pay out the mortgage. Okay? And then whatever's left is to you. You can take it as one lump sum, or you can take it, you have to take a minimum sum of like 25 grand, but then you can take it every month, 1,000 a month or 1,500 a month or whatever we set up till your money's gone, okay? So there's all kinds of ways you can do that. You have to own a house, a townhouse, or a condo. It can't be a mobile or anything right now. It can't be bare land, okay? It has to be your primary residence. We already talked about CHIP becoming a federal bank in 2009. And one thing I forgot to mention is 93% of Canadians want to age in their house and retire that way, which is huge. Okay, so I just worked with a lady, and she owned her house. She wants to stay there. She's almost 90, no family around or anything. And she needed money to fix her house up so she could set it up for wheelchairs and things like that. So we got all that set up for her. You don't have to make a payment with, yes?
What's the interest rate on a CHIP versus a mortgage?
2 to 3% higher. So that's a great question. And that's what a lot of people get scared of. So again, I don't want to get into, I could talk for hours about this and you know, how much equity would you potentially have at the end. We have calculators to show people with all that kind of stuff. But so right now, to get a reverse mortgage, you take terms like a 1 or a 3 or a 5 year term, or you could take a variable, which I don't recommend right now. You're probably looking between 7 and 8%. Regular mortgage right now on a 5 year term, conventional, is about 5.5. So that's the difference.
That, in mortgage, is that best rate? Because what do the banks?
That's an average rate of a mortgage. Depends. So I would say between 5.25 and 5.5 on a 5 year. So they're all over the place.
5 year fixed.
Correct. So right now, so the interest rates are higher because you don't have to make a payment. You can pay the interest payment. You could put a lump sum down every year so that the interest doesn't accrue, but that's the difference, is you don't have to make, you could take out 200 grand if you qualify, it goes into your bank account, that's your money, you do whatever you want with it. You don't have to make a payment, you just have to keep your property taxes up, which you can defer as well. So there's lots of options there, okay? Where was I? So up to 55% of the value of your home based on your property and your age. So if I'm 55, I might only get 10 to 15% of my value because I'm younger. Potentially I'll live longer. If you're 89, you're going to get about 55% of the value of your home. Does that make sense? So the older you are, the more you can take out. Okay? But it's very conservative. And on average, most people have about 50% remaining in the home when they go to sell, as long as the house accrues 2 to 3% per year, which it should, but we're going to have dips, right? So that all depends.
What happens if they're 85 and then they pass at 87?
If you pass, then there's no penalties. So Home Equity Bank will work with the family. They'll give you time to, hey Shannon, they'll give you time to sell. So they're not going to say it's got to be sold in 2 months. They said sometimes people take up to a year to sell. So that's a great question, and there's tons of questions, trust me. There's all kinds of...
Yeah, this is something I had read
Yep.
about CHIP, was that as soon as the owner passed, it had to be sold immediately.
Yeah, so as soon as the person's passed, the last person to live in it, so if I have a spouse and she passes and I'm still living in it, I can stay in it until I pass or I go into a home. Okay? And there's all kinds of different penalty variations that I could get into, but I'm not gonna today. That's where something that I'd rather sit down with somebody and explain, like there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to it. Just a regular mortgage itself, there's a lot to it. But with a CHIP, with a home equity reverse mortgage, trust me, I took my client, little old lady, she has nobody. And so I took her to the lawyer meeting, and I went through the whole process, and it's about a stack you get to sign like this.
And every situation's different.
Every situation's different. So some are regular mortgages, some are super easy, some are complicated. So there's lots to know here. Okay? I like to get the family involved because I don't want family coming back and saying, what the heck, right? And you have to get your own independent legal advice, which means that CHIP has their own lawyers. You have to go sign with a lawyer to understand stuff. Okay? It protects the client. That's why the legal fees are extra. Costs about $3,500 to set it up.
It would be conflict of interest with CHIP lawyers then.
That's right, that's why they do it. Yeah, you have to have your own legal entity. So, getting off topic, but good questions. So features, you have to live in your home. You don't ever have to make a payment. That's the beauty of it. So this lady I just dealt with, she took out 250 grand was her limit. She borrowed 100 grand, and then she phoned me. She goes, I need another 50. Oh, I need another 50. So it takes a couple days. You got to sign a couple forms, and then they put money right in your bank account. It's a very simple process. Okay? So, or you can take the whole 250 and use it to buy another rental property, or if you want to buy a cottage on the beach or something. So there's all kinds of options. Okay? So there's some people that own a house, say in Vancouver, worth $2 million, and they want to downsize to a home that's $1 million. But they can't qualify. That's another thing with the home reverse mortgages, they don't use income to qualify. With a traditional mortgage, most people don't qualify. I got many, many clients right now that make good money. Younger people that are working, they don't qualify. It's very hard today to qualify with interest rates the way they are and with prices the way they are. So with this, yeah, they're not worried about income. Okay? So that's the beauty of it. So that's why it's growing so fast too. Okay, because there's a lot of people that's the only way they can qualify. Again, there's tons of products in this I'm not going to get into, but I'm just giving you some information about it. It's an option to look at. It's not like, it doesn't work for everybody, but it's an awesome product for many, many, many people. Okay? It's also tax-free, so it will not affect your pension. Anything you take out of your primary residence is tax-free money. Okay? So that's one of the big questions. They're like, oh, is it going to affect my pension as income? It's not. Okay? So common uses. Again, I just put in here, wouldn't it be nice to have the money to do more things you want to? If you worked your whole life, you paid your house off, and you want to enjoy it. So a lot of people are taking that out right now for their own benefit, for their kids' benefit. They want to eliminate their mortgage payment. Let's say they have 50 grand owing on their house and they took out 250 on it. Well, you'd pay the house off. If you deferred property taxes, we'd have to pay that up to date, and then you can start deferring your taxes after. But the rest of the money would go into your bank. Okay, no payments. Again, you can pay the interest if you want, or you can put 10% down lump sum each year to keep the level there so it doesn't accrue. Okay? Unexpected expenses. Has anybody ever had that before? Like seriously? Anything ever come up? Oh, my car broke down. Healthcare expenses. I'm gonna help my kids, whatever, right? So you can use it for whatever you want. Okay? Helping your family. This one has been huge over the last few years. Helping kids buy houses. Huge, like massive. Yeah, so people are taking money out of their homes now while they can and while they're alive, so they can watch their kids, watch their family, enjoy their life, right? Instead of trying to leave it to them at the very end and not being able to enjoy it together. So that one's huge. Purchase a new home or vacation property. We talked a little bit about that. There's a great product they have out now. It's called a CHIP Open. It's an actual open mortgage. So again, it comes to the scenario if I have a $2 million home in Vancouver and I want to move to Campbell River, I can do a CHIP Open on my house in Vancouver before it sells, and I can pay cash for the one here. So there's so many products that work really well. Again, I don't want to confuse you with all the products. That's for one-on-one that we can talk about. So purchasing a new home or vacation property, we talked about that just now. Aging parents needing home care. So you got parents, yourself or parents that need to bring home care into the house. They don't want to move to a facility. Not that facilities are bad.
It's actually a home, not a facility.
Well, a home. Anyway, so people want to stay in their house, I guess is what I'm getting at. So take money out, they can bring in care to pay for it so that the family doesn't have that burden. Okay, so that's an option right there. That's a big one too, really big. And then tax-free retirement funding. Wilf's going to come up in a minute here and talk about retirement funding. So that's a huge one. It can add to your financial plan. Okay, they can, instead of drawing more that they need to live on from their investments, it can add to their plan. They take money out of their house tax-free and keep the money growing in their investments. So that's another thing that works really well too. So anyways, again, just some information there to get people to think about it. Let's like, oh, this is an avenue to look at. Let's look at these, but let's also look at this and see if it fits your life, see if that's something you need. I think that there's so many seniors and people out there that don't have enough information on this. I really think it's lacking. It's huge. Like this market, from a business point of view, this market is ginormous for me. Like, I want people to understand what they're getting into and their family to understand it too, because again, there's a lot to it. If you don't understand it, don't do it, right? So it's something to think about. I have some great booklets if anybody wants them, or just come and ask me questions. Email me, phone me.
Really like about it is federally regulated.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big bonus for it.
Yep, and they're a nationwide chip, so Canadian Home Income Plan is what it's called. It's been around since 1968, and then they just became a bank in 2009. But it's unbelievable how fast they're growing right now, like, and how big their business is, especially over the last few years with values of homes, right? So, world right now is so expensive, like it's ridiculous, right? So this is just a little help. So, all right, thanks guys.
My name is Wilf Haas from Queensbury Securities. I've been involved in the financial industry since 2004. As Mike said, there's lots of concerns for retirees and what to do and stuff, and some of the things that I can help with. I found this presentation from TD that was available for me. It's basically your retirement journey and where you are today, whether you're accumulating for retirement or you're getting close to retirement, or you're taking money out and then you're running short, and then you got to talk to Mike about one of his mortgages, which is totally possible. I also left out a sheet at the back there. It's taking stock worksheet, basically, to look at your goals, where you are today, and things that you may want to change down the road to enjoy that retirement years there. And when you're retirement, you don't know, this is going too fast, sorry? Fast mouse, yes. What are you going to do in retirement? Everybody's different. And some people will keep on working, go back to school, enjoy time at the cottage, or watch TV, catch up. But, so how much longer do you plan to work? Do you plan on how long you're going to live in retirement? New retirement realities. One of the things unknown is you don't know how long you're going to live. It's totally unknown. There's no guarantee on that. And so there's a lot of planning you can do, but you don't have to, but it makes things easier. Did it again. As you can see, how many people are working after the age 65. Some are doing it just because they're bored. Some of it because they want the extra money. You know. But the average retirement age is 63 right now. Now this is interesting here about how long you'll live. And this is, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and as you can see, the average age expectancy is 85 years old. And there's a lot of talk about when to take your Canada pension. And a lot of actuaries put out numbers and say, well, you should wait till you're age 70 because you're going to get quite a lot more money. Okay? But if you wait to age 70, if you look at, you're going to live 15 years longer. So is that a good gamble with your money, kind of thing? Like, to get extra money there, and you know, as you know, you come across lots of friends who've passed away a lot earlier than 85, right? You know, and one thing a lot of people don't know, if you are maxed out in your Canada pension, like you're, say, a couple, and you're going to get maximum CPP benefits at age 65, you start collecting, and the very next day, one spouse passes away, you're not probably going to see a dime of their Canada pension because you're already maxed out on CPP. You can't get more than the maximum amount. But the government doesn't really tell you that, and these people that try to say to wait to age 70, right, to collect your pension, or same thing, at age 70, you start collecting, the next day one of you pass away. Now you spent all your money that you've saved in your RSPs, tax-free savings accounts, or wherever, right? And you've spent all that money, but you haven't collected anything from the government, which you paid in for how many years? 40 years or whatever in Canada pension. So, but saying that, I mean, every situation is different, and I will not say to somebody automatically you should take it at 65. You got to look at your situation, your taxes payable, and everything. There's lots of different things to look at. And you wonder, how long will your money last? Are you able to keep up with your standard of living? And you have to take a look at where your investments are. Right now, if you look where inflation is right now. One thing about CPP, inflation is, your CPP benefits are adjusted for inflation. So like last year in January this year, CPP benefits went up 2.7%. And it's calculated based on November to October the previous year and divided by the previous year, and then they come up with a number, kind of thing. So, but looks like it will, the increase will be quite a bit more next year for your CPP. One of the things about inflation, if you look at this chart here, you can see what happens to your money with inflation just running at 2%. Your purchasing power reduces substantially. So what can you do about that? Well, you can look at different ways to invest your money. Simply just by putting 5-year GICs investing in there, you can get substantially more than inflation. But if you invest in basically the stock market, depending on what kind of risk levels you take, you're going to be a lot further ahead, kind of thing. And whether it's in RSP, tax-free savings accounts, or non-registered investments, there's lots of choices there. And you wonder how your portfolio will perform. Well, that depends how much risk you're going to take. And in retirement, you really need to reduce the volatility you have in your portfolio. I know some other firm in town, they were promoting how well their balanced fund was doing, and they've been pretty much like flat this year, when the stock market's been down 10 to 20% kind of thing, which is, you know, really good to be flat kind of thing. But the returns are fairly stable, so in years when it's really booming, the returns aren't that great. So if you're happy, you know, getting only 4% return, you could do that, or you invest a little bit more aggressively because you want to be, you know, beating inflation. And as you can see, this chart there talks about, shows the volatility on a portfolio. And when you're drawing money out of your portfolio, it works against you if you keep drawing money out of something. If you draw out 5%, but your investment goes down 10%, that's a double whammy basically on your investment portfolio. So you're going to run out of money faster. So you always, when you're getting close to retirement, you want to put money aside that you can draw on that's not going to be affected by the market. And one of the things in retirement, again, looking at long-term care, I won't talk much about that, but there is, look at funding for that. How much money you need to look after yourself, unless you're lucky enough to, like Mike, he's going to move in with his dad, so he's okay. Oh no, you're going to move in with Mike. Sorry.
Not the other way around.
My wife and I moved when they went to university. In 1 year, they both found us.
Really?
I know, he just kept moving around and changing the locks on the,
Still found
they
us.
couldn't make it. Yeah. Couldn't get in the house.
So, sort of in closing on this, the important part is really defining your vision on where you want to be in your retirement or before retirement, and have certain goals and look at them and revisit them every couple of years to see if you're on track to where you want to be in your retirement. So, and talk to your investment professional about that, or myself, and get an honest opinion where you're at. So, anybody has any questions?
What ages do you have to turn everything into a RIF? Is it 71?
71.
And what percentage minimum do you have to take out?
It's roughly around 5%,
Right.
roughly around there. It adjusts each year. But one thing people don't realize, you can actually start a RIF at any time. So for tax planning, a person may want to start drawing their money out of the RIF at age 50. Like they convert their RSP to a RIF.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you can do it any time. I've done that for a few clients. And then we actually, tax-wise, we end up switching it back to an RSP.
So you could actually do that?
Yeah, you can switch it back. Right?
You don't get charged?
No, it's just extra paperwork on my part, but that's, yeah, I've done that a few times. So one person was for tax planning purposes because they're drawing money from a corporation and they decided to take less money, so they switched it around, and so that's a possibility. So, okay, well, thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Kalinda. I am the Community Relations Manager for Berwick by the Sea here in Campbell River. I've been with Retirement Living for about 8 years now, 6 of those with Berwick. I used to work at the Nanaimo location and was over in Vancouver working for different homes over there in assisted living and long-term care. Decided I wanted to be back into independent living, so I came back over to Campbell River. Berwick by the Sea, the mission is pretty simple: to create a wonderful environment where residents enjoy exceptional service from friendly staff. So thank you for joining today. A little bit behind Berwick, owners Gordon and Chris Denford founded Berwick Retirement Communities in 1989. Being BC owned and operated has allowed both Chris and Gordon the ability to stay connected and involved in each community's development and management. Over 30 years, the Denford family has been building award-winning retirement residents in British Columbia. They also have their own construction company, so they're very hands-on. They started with Berwick House in Victoria, and then they decided to open another one in Victoria. So they opened Berwick Royal Oak, and then they decided to expand off the island, and they opened Kamloops, Berwick by the Park. And then Nanaimo came along, and they found a spot on the lake there, so it's called Berwick on the Lake. And then they decided to move further up North Island, all the way to Comox, and they opened up the Berwick Comox Valley. And then they opened up the Berwick by the Sea in Campbell River. And then Berwick Qualicum Beach was open, and we just had the grand opening last night for Berwick Parksville. So, and there's quite a few on the island, most of them. We're up to 8 now, so pretty wonderful that it's BC owned and operated. It's a private company. And So what Berwick-Campbell River offers, because all Berwicks are different, they're all located in different areas, and it really is themed towards the community and the surroundings. So if you come into Berwick-Campbell River, you'll see live edge furniture and tabletops and just post and beams, and of course the dining room overlooks the ocean, which I get to see right now, so inspired. We have studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedroom suites. We have 3 meals a day prepared by Red Seal chefs. We also have snacks, we have pop-ups, which would include things like if they're doing some sort of fresh fruit display, or they wanted to show a resident how they make something that we serve on our menu. There's weekly housekeeping and linen service. So our housekeepers collect all the linens and all the towels, and they take it down to our commercial washer and dryer downstairs, and then they refresh your bed, they vacuum, they mop, they clean your bathroom. All the suites are set up for the grab bars and anything that a resident may need. Independent living suites. There's a robust active living program as well. So sometimes we have arguments over why did you schedule this when this is going on. So it's a good thing to have. We have the Berwick Around Town Batmobile with a driver for appointments, or if you wanted to visit family, they'll drop you off, they'll pick you up. And everything's included: utilities, cable, Wi-Fi. We have air conditioning in Campbell River as well. So, and then we also have enhanced living services. And this is part of so that our residents can age in place. So they move in completely independent, not requiring any care. And then if 5 years down the road, say they needed help with medication reminders or help with their compression socks or even a shower assist, then that's something that we can offer there. And then, residents do just, come in fully independent, and we really try to make sure that they don't leave it too long, because then it just might not turn into an independent living situation, and they would require more care than we can offer. So that can get difficult. So that's what enhanced living services is for.
Is that fairly new?
No, it's been it's been there since it opened. I think there might be a misunderstanding in the community about, we do allow VIHA workers to come in right now because there is a higher care crisis in Campbell River. We want to make sure that our residents are taken care of for as long as possible. But when it comes to a health or a safety issue, that's when we would have to have that deeper conversation with the family. It's not one where it's, you're no longer independent. It's a whole conversation. So, yeah.
Can I ask one question too?
Of course.
So when the enhanced program, if someone gets beyond that, then how does that work? What do you like?
It's a plan. It's a plan with the family. It's in a plan with the community. We're really lucky that we have a strong community base with the care surrounding us. Even with the shortage, there is always a caseworker that's willing to work with us, and she goes above and beyond with VIHA. We're really trying to keep the residents from being in the hospital, and that's the biggest fear. We're expecting 150 bed long-term care to be built by VIHA close to the hospice area there, but hasn't happened yet. So, yeah.
So you're just bringing extra people in for the help, or do you work on?
So if they've been there for a while, then they can work with their family to bring in somebody from care, but they can't move in and
If
bring
they're in that
somebody in.
situation.
Yeah, and that's where it gets confusing and a little difficult. So, yeah, but there could be other options then for them where they could have the home care come in, and set up the plan to set up their house. And some people do want to remain at home, and that's the conversation we have with them of, is this really what you want to do. Do you want to move or not want to move? There's no pressure. We really want it to be an exciting opportunity. It's not, we're trying to get away from the nursing home retirement. It's retirement living. It's not even senior living. We're seeing a lot of people in their late 60s move in. Just they've made some really good choices in their life or have sold their house for 10 times more than they bought it for, and they're able to. So
What's your rate, accommodation rate? Like, are you full?
it's a little bit of a wait list, but again, it's all dependent on the community, our community, and then also what's happening with the higher care. So I've said this since I started a year and a half ago, it all works out on people's timing. And the biggest part of it is making that choice. Everything else is logistics. Everything else, everybody can help you through. You can get support from realtors, family. We help out a lot of people. There's lots of people in the community. Our movers that we prefer and recommend, they help out as well. So that's the biggest, the hardest part is making that decision. And knowing if it's right. We also, for qualified, independent people, if they want to kind of try it out, we will offer a 2-night short-term stay that we take care of, just to give them that peace of mind. This is something that I want to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, they can test your breakfast.
They can, yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
I would have moved in the next day.
Yeah, so that's kind of what right now I really see. Like last year was a whole other scenario. People were selling their houses thinking they'd never be able to afford Berwick, coming in like within a week. Like, I'll deal with my stuff later, and I know my place is gonna sell. And they'd move in fully excited, this is gonna be their new life. And they're people are gonna live there for up to 30, 40 years. It's a whole other life now. So this year's a little bit different now that the market obviously has cooled off, where people are wondering if this is something again that they can afford or they can't. We see a lot of people that don't have a financial advisor, don't have a realtor or somebody that can kind of help them along the way in that journey, to be able to say it's okay, you can live till you're 140. So that's kind of,
That's my plan.
yeah. And we have all, residents from, I think our youngest is 67, all the way up to 99. So or 100, 100 birthday. So it's a really nice community in that sense, where everybody can just, you don't have to feel like you're in any kind of group or anything.
Does it smell a little like
No. No. What does that smell like?
But no, you go into a lot of facilities and there is an odor.
Yeah, so this isn't a facility, and we really like to kind of drive that home because it's a home. It's no, it's okay, because when you come in too, it's you're coming from 2,500 square feet, and you're looking at a 605 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And people are like, where are we going to put everything? And it's like, you have to look at, this is your whole home. You have access to it 24/7. The 6th floor is absolutely stunning. They can go up there at any time, say they're not on the ocean side or living on the ocean side, they go up there. We have coffee and tea and snacks up there. We do events up there. It's quite amazing. Yeah, it really is. It's a lifestyle. And that's kind of what we're focusing on. Happy hours Thursdays at 3:30. Yeah. And we have entertainment come in, and all different things for everybody. Yeah. So the first part is the conversation, and kind of getting to that answer a few of the important questions for yourself, that are just for you. When you're looking at retiring or moving or downsizing, what is your goal and objective in attending today's seminar? Are you here to learn about retirement community living, Or are you here to learn about options that are available to you at this time in your life? Say if you wanted to stay at home and look at the options there. And are you here because something has changed in your life and you know you can't stay living where you are, but you're not sure what the next steps are? So leaving your home behind and moving to a senior's residence is a big change that takes getting used to. A few of the biggest concerns are accepting how you feel. So you need to ask for support, start fresh, make it yours, take the time to rest, come out of your shell, create a routine, start a project, speak up. So there's lots of articles out there that really help that emotional piece of how do I figure out what's best for me? And you really just need to look at your current living situation and everything you want it to need it to be. Is it meeting all your wants and needs? And is there something missing? And what are your options as well? So we do have a questionnaire we can hand out afterwards. I'm going to make Jan hand it out right now. So I think I covered a lot of things, but I can share some more information on options and why people do decide to move or downsize. It's usually a blend of personal preference.
Can I ask another question?
Of course.
Is there such a thing as bursaries or anything for people?
It's not subsidized at Berwick, but there are places that are eligible for subsidy, but just not at Berwick. Yeah. Typical blend of personal preferences, desired location, desired lifestyle, financial resources, healthcare needs. There's always so many different areas of your life that you need to look at and think if independent living would be one of them. Many people prefer their homes and want to stay there, especially after a loss, or if they, just want to spend the last years of their life. So that's where you need to look at that setting your place up. There's no need to be put anywhere. Sometimes family thinks that, they worry about you, and that's generally what we see is family gets worried about their parents being alone. What if something happens? And they bring them in, and they're not excited to be there, and they don't want to be a part of a communal living. They have their life set up, they have their friends, they have their activities. So that's always kind of the decision, the bigger decision, where I've actually said to people that you probably want to enjoy communal living. And if you want to stay home, stay home. Here's, and I'd love to be able to offer that support too to them, to let them know where they can go and who to talk to get that set up. Desired location is always a big one to find in Campbell River. Once people have lived here for, I'd say about 5 years, they're not leaving Campbell River. So we can say there is places available in Courtney, Comox area even, and people are like, no. We're saying I've been here my whole life. I worked at the mill. I'm not going anywhere. So that's kind of where a lot of the community coming in, where we're doing tours, and they'll see 5 people that they know. And I swear I don't set it up. It just happens. It's kind of kismet. Desired lifestyle too, a way a person lives. Do they choose to kind of be more to themselves, less social, or do they enjoy attending a ton of activities and going for dinner every night, going for lunch every night? We've had people move in that weren't social. They maybe went out a couple times here and there, and now they're the life of the party. It's just they can't stop them. Financial resources, of course. Good idea to have family and an accountant and financial advisor to make sure that they're going through that with you, so that they can give you that peace of mind that you're making the best decision for yourself and for your family. That you would be able to come in. And then also just to look at things that could go wrong with your house or your apartment or wherever you're living, and think about the costs and depreciation and everything like that. So when we do hand out our brochures, we have a cost of living comparison of what is included at Berwick, and then what you would be paying separately, including maintenance, hydro, everything like that. Health and safety. It's important to consider your health as well as mental health, especially right now with still the pandemic. Found seniors programs are not opening up as quickly, or if at all, in Campbell River, and people are still a little leery about attending, or they've lost a car service to take them there. So they're finding, they're lonely and they don't want to go through another winter. And I mean, we have an endless summer right now. Maybe that's why people aren't thinking about moving. But that's always something to consider too. Options, we just talked about the age in place at home, making sure you have the support to go through that with your family or financial advisor. There's also living with a family member as well. We find that probably lasts about 6 months to a year, and then they move in, and it's usually the parent deciding, this isn't going to work for me, right? So, and they come, they move back in. There's the retirement communities, different types. So there's independent living, there's assisted living, there's also places that have continuous care, which is ones that start with independent living, but then they have assisted living, and they also have memory care. It's not a Berwick, but me saying that is, say you have somebody that your partner had, needed acute care or memory care. One of you could live in independent living, and the other person could live in a care setting. So, and you'd be in the same complex, and that can be very important as well. At first, people may struggle with the decision to move into community, but once that choice has been made, again, it's all logistics and just figuring out how to make it happen, coming up with that plan. Myself and Jan always give people space to make that decision. There is no pressure. They really need to come and go, this is my next step. I'm super excited. I can't wait to live here. This is going to be amazing. So that's kind of what we stand behind at Berwick. When we do take somebody's name on a wait list, there's no obligation, financially or otherwise. When we call them, when their preferred suite comes up and they say no, it's fine. They stay in the same spot. We move on to the next one. And it's really kind of that feeling of, Berwick's not there to, force anybody to live a lifestyle that they're not ready for. So did anybody have any questions? Or I do have books to hand out as well, to move or not to move. So I hand these out to whoever would like one. And it's a great guide, as I'm, chatting with my mom and thinking maybe it's her time. Yeah. It's time. Just slide it across the table one day.
Does Berwick have open houses? Like, if I have clients that maybe aren't ready yet to make any decisions, do you have open houses where they're welcome to come and?
I'd be happy to tour, and it is a group.
You don't have
No, we could do up to 4, 4 to 5. Again, it would be a tour of just walking around the home and seeing all the amenities, and not a tour to add somebody to the wait list.
No.
But yeah, absolutely, we could do that. Good. Yeah, no, you're welcome. We have Marilyn McPhee.
Hi everyone, I'm Marilyn McPhee. I'm private care, senior private care for about the last 10 years here. So I think, thank you Diane actually for bringing us all together. I think it's been a great venue and we've got some good connections between each other, and you know, it all works out together. Our options is what it's all about, right? We want to know about options for our family. So I'm here to talk about senior care at home. And most people, ideally, like 93%, I think I would agree with that, want to stay at home. And it's nice to have options for financially to do that now too. So here in Campbell River, we have, in order to stay at home and to get help, there's of course family, and there's private care people like myself that can come into your home and assist in what you need. And there's Island Health, and so if you think you need some help from, you know, physically or emotionally or mentally, Island Health, you call them up, they'll take an intake and decide if you qualify or if you need a caseworker to follow up, and they can come into your home and assess the person that needs help. And then there's help available through, if you qualify, to go in, and they can come in up to I think 4 times a day. I mean, usually it's like 15 minutes at that point, but they can help you with meals and bathing and taking medication and stuff like that. Yes, I think I just heard I was talking to one of the persons at Island Health, and said they figure the long-term care facility will be about 5 years from now. So we got some time to go. Cost for Island Health is on a sliding scale based on your income. And apparently more funding is coming down. I think they just announced that too, so there's more funding. And I think ideally, I think it'd be better, like for myself, I'm private care, so people have to pay me individually. And so many people are wanting to stay at home or getting help, it'd be nice if there was funding for them as well, just because Island Health is pretty limited. And I guess there's funding, so more care workers should be coming for at-home care. When we don't know, but that's the plan. Also available for people to stay at home is Red Cross has a lending facility, so you can get walkers or toilet lifts or anything like that for make daily living easier. You know, because you always want to take all fall precautions, and if medication's a problem, you can get them in blister packs, so that's all the pills are in the same thing at the same time. You can take them. Yeah, so it's just important to get your affairs in order, right? To do your wills, to do your power of attorney. It's amazing the people that don't do that, but I think most of them do this time. And also very important is your medical representation agreement. So if you're not able to make decisions yourself on your medical care, then you have someone to do that for you. And so yeah, and talk to your family, your doctor, your family about what your wishes are about staying at home or even dying, right? For me, part of my business is morphed into, I want to help people die better. We're all going to die. And so what does that look like, right? And so there's lots of options for that. There's hospice, you know, once you get, there's palliative care. One thing that I found is that the hardest thing is that to get a hospital bed. If people are at home, it's hard to get a hospital bed. So, but I've had clients that we found them used, and then you can get a hospital bed at home. If Red Cross is pretty hard, it's hard to get the hospital bed. Good, yeah. So I think it's a bit of a, yeah. Yeah, the Red Cross is an awesome, awesome place. Yeah, Mediquip, that's right, that's an option too. Yeah, they have all different things too. Yeah, yeah. They got an office here and then, yeah, up and down the island. Yeah. And they even service Quadra where I'm from.
Well, it's not just that. If they don't have it here, they'll call it in.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. And they can come and set everything up for you. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, and so to get that advanced care plan in order so you can have your wishes, and when it's time, I think it's a gift that we can give to our family on how we want to die and what we want to do with our things and that. So that's important. And after we die, then what? Well, those wishes should be known too, right? And we're all different, and there's actually lots of options that lots of people don't know about, but there's always options that, you know, of course, the cremation and burial and where you want to be and what that looks like. So it's so, I find it so curious how people will just, they don't care, right? It doesn't matter. And so that makes it pretty easy. Although, so even let that know. Like, someone needs to make decisions after you die, or while you're not able to make decisions. So it's good to make your wishes known and be clear about that. Yeah, and so sometimes we don't have a choice. We can only stay in our home so long, or we want to go to the lovely Berwick by the sea. Come on, it's an awesome place. And the staff, my experience has been beautiful there. And there's Ironwood Place is an assisted living. Yeah. So that's here, and there's also Ken Ford, which is in Willow Point, which is a low-income housing. And there's funded beds in long-term care at Yakulta and Discovery Harbor. Evergreen and Golden Grove are both private. Although Golden Grove it's in Willow Point. It's small. I think it's like 8 beds. Like, it's small. Evergreen, which is larger, I do believe they do have some funding beds, because they go through the Island Health, so it's mostly private, but they have to have a few funded beds. But I think it's 2-year wait, last I heard, for a funded bed. But you can also go if you get assessed for long-term care, you can prioritize. But if it comes down to it, like if I want to go into Discovery Harbor first, then Yakulta, but if Yakulta comes up and if you don't take it, you get bumped, or sometimes you have to take it because you need the help. But then once you're in there, or in either of the facilities, and you're not happy there for whatever reason, you can apply to move to the other facility. And also, if you're at home and you're in hospice at palliative care at home, it's great to have the expected home death form, so you don't have to phone 911 when your loved one dies. And then you just phone the funeral home. And I think we're going to learn about funeral homes coming up. So, yeah, any questions? I can do anything I'm comfortable and the resident or the client's comfortable with. So unlike like Island Health is pretty restricted on what they do, I can do, and my boundaries have expanded over the years. So I can do like a lot is companion, shopping, cooking, organizing, getting ready to move, organizing the house. So going for shopping, going for drives, going for lunch, going for a walk. So yeah, kind of whatever they need.
That's nice, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that like the companionship.
Oh, absolutely, it's huge. Because a lot of people don't have families. And so I become friends. And so often I'll just stay with that person right till the end, right? Yeah. So I've had some lovely experiences and friendships over the years.
So is something like that like a daily rate, an hourly rate? I don't.
Hourly rate,
Okay.
yeah. And so I could do a 1 hour, depends on what's happening in my day, but so I'm flexible, right? Mm-hmm. And depending on what they need, depends on my rate as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to like drive them around and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I pick up a lady, and we'd go, she picks up where we want to go for lunch, we go for lunch, we go for a drive, we go for a little walk. You know, it's whatever. I take,
To help you?
Well, my wife's not giving me enough.
I also take them to appointments. Like I took a gentleman today, and I took him to the optometrist, and I stay with him the whole time and help the whole time. And yeah, because if there's not family, so I want to be that family for them.
More companion, not medical stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Over and out.
Hi, I'm Sandra Triplett, and I'd like to thank Diane for putting this on today because I think you're getting a lot of really useful information that most people don't get until it's too late. And believe me, there is such a thing as too late. And in our profession, that's typically when the hearse is pulling out of the driveway. So for you to be here today is really good because it shows that you're being proactive about something that's going to happen to all of us. 100% of the population is going to have to deal with this at some point in time. And I think it's really good to know what sort of things you need to watch out for while you're still here to have some control of that. I think probably the most important thing that people need to recognize when it comes to planning a funeral is if you were to die today, what is not done? And the number one thing that I call it the bang my head against the desk is people don't have wills. They do not have wills. There is a misconception that says if I don't have an estate, I don't need a will. And I'm going to correct that right now. If you have a body, you need a will. Because whoever is named as the executor or the executrix in your will is the person who is responsible for what happens to your body from the moment your heart stops beating. That is when your executor or executrix takes over. If you have power of attorney and you go, I'm not worried, I got power of attorney, that dies with you. Your power of attorney will die with you. Your executrix or executor take over that role to deal with everything that had to do with you after your death. And that includes leaving the hospital. That includes leaving the home. All these things that we don't think about because we're not going to be here. Somebody's going to be here, and I guarantee you're going to make their life a whole lot easier if you name that person before you pass away. And that person is who is in charge. There is a temptation for a lot of people to make their children their executors, if you will. That means if you have one child, that's a no-brainer. Our child is in charge of everything after we die. It gets a little more complicated if you have more than one child. You do not have to name all of your children as executors, executrixes. You do not have to name them all in joint. Those are things that we really encourage people to really talk about with their attorneys, because if your children fought when they were children, they are going to fight in the funeral home after your death. It's just what happens. So one person is who we always prefer to be in charge, preferably a competent person. A responsible person, again, doesn't have to be your child. It can be your friend, it can be your neighbor. Try and make them somebody who is either the same age or younger than you, because there is nothing worse than sitting in a funeral home going, we have a will, we have an executor, great, and then open that will and find out the executor has passed away 5 years ago. You don't have a will. You really do, because you've left no one in charge. So if you do have somebody your age or younger, and preferably that person also has an alternate if for some reason that they cannot deal with that. So that out of the way, what do you want? There is a time and a place to discuss, debate, or argue about whether mom or dad wanted a cremation or a burial. That place is not the funeral home. That is a decision that hopefully you will have made well in advance and discussed it among your children, and that it's not a secret. Your kids don't get shocked and find out that this is something that they are surprised about. It's something that you should as a family have that discussion, so you do not take your children unaware. They're already grieving, they're already going through something really, really rough. They don't need to have any more surprises thrown on top of them. pretty much everything's out of their control up to this point, so at least let them know what they can expect when they get to the funeral home, whether they're sitting down to arrange a cremation or a burial. Just maybe in the discussion, allow your family members to have the flexibility to say, well, I personally don't want anything after I go, but if you feel that you would like to have a simple service, or if you feel that you would like to have a graveside, or if you feel that a scattering as a family together, maybe by the ocean, is something that we want to do, absolutely give them that flexibility. You'll be giving them a huge amount of peace of mind, and they'll also feel like they're fulfilling your wishes at the same time. Because if you say no, they will do nothing, and they may end up with lots of complicated grief issues because they didn't do what they needed to do at the time to deal with the grief that they have. British Columbia is a 97% cremation area in terms of funeral services. There is not really any legal impediment to scattering of cremated remains. Cremains, some people call them ashes, although technically they're not ashes, it's perfectly fine to refer to them as such. The province of British Columbia has a law that once disposition has taken place, the disposition, however that method is, burial or cremation, is termed final. Which means that once you are buried, as far as the government is concerned, final disposition has taken place. If you are cremated, it is the act of the cremation that is your disposition. So once you have those ashes home with you, the government and the laws, they really don't care what you do with those at that point. Final disposition has already taken place. You could turn your loved one into a record, you could turn your loved one into ammunition, you could become fireworks, you could shoot them into space, you can plant them in your own garden if you wish, bearing in mind you may not own that property several generations down the road. But there is no law that says you have to do this with these cremated remains. There is an exception to that rule, and is that if you are a member of the Roman Catholic faith, they really do not like you to have cremated remains outside of sanctified ground, which is a fancy way of saying we would like you to either bury these ashes in a cemetery with the full Catholic rite, or we would like you to somehow have them interred in the church or within an area of the church that would be allowed by the Catholic Church. So they really don't want you keeping those ashes at home. They really frown on scattering. Something to do, as long as the church approves of where you're going to put those ashes, that's perfectly fine. You're meeting all of your religious requirements at that point. Cremation is allowed in the Roman Catholic faith. Some priests prefer that they have a last rite before cremation. Some really don't care. Some will be fine with an urn coming into the church. Others might prefer the full body. These are discussions that, as a member of that faith, that you would want to have with your clergy. Now, in order to keep everything really, really straightforward and really simple, I wish people would do this in high school, but they don't, is pre-plan your funeral and pre-fund your funeral with ideally what's called a guaranteed funeral. Now, when I say guaranteed, I mean that the price you were to pay today is the price that you would pay 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. There's many complicated ways of discussing how to do a pre-arranged service. A lot of funeral homes have their own in-house, which I do recommend. I'm not going to pinpoint any one particular product over another, but I try and oversimplify things in terms of your life insurance policy really should be designated for the living. That's a simple way to remember. Life insurance is for the living. That's what you leave behind for those you leave behind. Funeral insurance is something that you should set aside for your funeral because they're very different products. They have very different investment criteria, but the one important thing about funerals and funeral insurance is that once you have bought your funeral, typically that is what you paid. You bought your funeral, it's there for when you need it. And ideally there should be no extra fees, should you pass away 20, 30, 40 years from now. Typically, most funeral plans will pay an interest on your investment, and you can pay monthly, you can pay yearly, you can pay one lump sum. You can even have some that are insured in the event of your death and you pass away a month into it, your entire funeral is covered. There's so many different options for funeral insurance. It really depends on what works best for you and the type of situation that you're in. And I highly encourage you to meet with a funeral director. There's no cost to doing this. You can go in and ask all the questions you want. They can actually charge you to take up their time. You just phone them and say, I want to talk about insurance. You're under absolutely no obligation to buy with that funeral home. And in fact, you can go around to several funeral homes and discuss with different funeral homes what it is they offer and what types of plans they have, because they will all have different plans. In a lot of cases, many different funeral homes have the same plan. They may even have the same pre-need advisor. So it's just a matter of asking those questions, not being shy to walk in there. Most funeral homes are quite fine if you call, book an appointment. I don't encourage walking in, although legal you can, because they might have a funeral going on or they may have had a family who's just had a death. So we just ask that people be sensitive to the fact that if you are wanting to meet with a funeral home, that you just call ahead to book a time. Not so that you're obligated for anything, it's just so that the funeral home has time to prepare for you and make sure you're not scheduled around somebody else who may need that funeral home at that time. And it's also very important to bear in mind, you have the right to walk into any funeral home at any time, even after I've just said don't do it as courtesy. You request a price list, and by law, they have to give you one. They have no right to detain you. They have no right to ask you any further questions. They have no right to encourage you to make an appointment. You can go in and say, may I have one of your price lists? They must give it to you. That price list should be readily available, so all you have to do is walk in, take it yourself, and leave. If it's not there, it should be, but if it's not, you can certainly ask anybody for a price list for a funeral home. And any funeral home is, under the law of British Columbia, required to give that document to you so that you can decide for yourself what your budget is and how you want to work through things. When you come across things like this, it's a good idea to ask a lot of questions, because we all know what it's like to go into a grocery store with that one item we have in mind. And by the time we haven't made a list and we've walked through the whole store, we've got a cart full of things we probably didn't need, and we're leaving without the one item we actually came in for in the first place. And our budget is shot. You know, the one $5 item we went in to get, we're walking out of there $47 later, and we have all this stuff we didn't really need, but it appealed to us at the time. Don't shop hungry. Do not go to a funeral home without a plan, because they will be more than happy to give you all kinds of options that you will, in some cases, feel obligated to go, that's a great idea, that's a great idea, that's a good idea. As opposed to, that's a great idea for us. Or that's not a great idea for us, for somebody else, but not for us. So I would just encourage people who are thinking about doing a funeral plan, definitely do one. Have your will in place. Have a care directive in place is always good too. Have an executor that you trust, and have a plan for what it is you want to do. And you'll find that if you have these sorts of things in place, it's going to be more cost effective for you, it's going to be simpler for you, and it's going to be so much easier on your family. Gone are the days where it was the last gift you could give your mother, is to give her the best funeral ever. No. You need to help your family. They're going through enough with your loss. They don't need to try and find more gifts to give you. By this point, you should be giving them the gift of peace of mind, and that is to let them know everything's taken care of, all the decisions are made. You just need to show up, finalize my decisions with one signature, and have a celebration of life or the end of life plan that works for you and is best for your family. Thank you.